President Lee Jae-myung, it's been 2 days now. Ever since the election ended and his term started, he has been making bold moves. Let's hear more details from reporter Seon Han-bit, who is covering the presidential office. This morning's cabinet meeting took place, and earlier President Lee remarked that it felt somewhat awkward, hinting at underlying tensions. I'm eager to find out what the atmosphere was like among the cabinet members. How was it?
It was a meeting with cabinet members appointed by the previous administration.
That's right.
It could be seen as a symbolic moment that ultimately revealed the uncomfortable relationship between the two sides. Figures like Broadcasting Commission Chairperson Lee Jin-sook and Culture Minister Yoo In-chon were present. Most of the cabinet members entering the meeting room looked stern, their expressions not particularly pleasant.
The awkward cohabitation is expected to continue until successors for the ministers are appointed. I'm also curious about President Lee's opening remarks during the meeting. But I heard the tension heightened afterwards?
Yes, that's right. The first remark to the moderator was quite notable. It was this moment.
So usually, for meetings like this, there's at least a basic outline or theme set ahead of time, but in this case, there didn't seem to be anything. The President just began the meeting right away with his opening remarks. You were told to proceed that way, weren't you? So why didn't you follow through? You were clearly instructed to lead the session.
What did you make of it? It was a pointed remark about how the procedure was being handled. Although President Lee's directive created a somewhat tense atmosphere at first, the meeting itself continued without any major issues.
Hearing something like that would definitely make the civil servants nervous. After President Lee described the presidential office as a graveyard on his first day, the officials who had returned quickly left again.
Yes, that's correct. He described his first impression of the presidential office as a graveyard, saying it lacked vitality and that no staff were visible. In response, the ruling party, specifically Democratic Party floor leader Park Chan-dai, also stated that those responsible would be held fully accountable. However, as of this morning, most of the staff who had worked in the presidential office during the previous administration returned to their posts. Civil servants who had been seconded to the presidential office but quickly returned to their original ministries were brought back again, following President Lee's firm remarks.
It's truly remarkable to see how a single statement from the president can instill such tension and prompt action at the national level. Despite being busy with appointments, the president withdrew nominations. What significance does this hold for the Constitutional Court?
President Lee withdrew the nominations of Constitutional Court judge candidates Lee Won-gyu and Ham Sang-hoon today. It was during the time when former Prime Minister Han was serving as acting president following the impeachment of former President Yoon. In April last year, Han nominated the two candidates as successors to former Constitutional Court judges Moon Hyung-bae and Lee Mi-sun. At the time, it was expected that the new president would nominate replacements since the retiring judges were appointed under the president's authority. However, Han's unexpected move sparked controversy. Back then, as the Democratic Party leader, President Lee criticized Han, saying, "He seems to be under the illusion that he's the president." Just 2 days into his term, President Lee has already taken steps to correct this. For now, it seems that President Lee is determined to swiftly rectify what he considers to be the previous administration's missteps.
Every move and every word from President Lee is drawing intense focus, and it's certainly raising the tension. But he's also starting to show a more down-to-earth and relatable side.
Yes, we did see a shift in tone at certain points. President Lee is conveying a message that he plans to maintain active communication with his working-level officials and senior aides. On his first day in office yesterday, President Lee held a late-night emergency economic review meeting. Vice ministers and working-level officials from various ministries, including the Ministry of Economy and Finance, attended. During the meeting, President Lee gave out his personal phone number and encouraged participants to share their opinions freely at any time. All attendees reportedly saved the president's number. Today, during the extended cabinet meeting, he had just a single kimbap roll to eat while continuing the discussion. It seems President Lee's humble and approachable actions will continue for the time being.
We look forward to updates on the president. That was reporter Seon Han-bit.